Welcome to Trading Lounge and the Asian indices, and I'd like to start with CBA and then the ASX 200. And what I want to point out on the monthly chart here and also with the ASX 200, and we've been over this before, but I think it's good to go over this because it is possible that we've got a low in place here. So I do want to talk about this larger structure for the CBA. I mean, this is our biggest stock, you know, it's like 9% of the ASX benchmark 200. So yeah, and it's quite clear to me that, you know, we have wave 3 here and 4 here in an ABC pattern here. And we have this 1 and 2 here and 3 and 4 here and 5 here. I know on the the ASX that this wave 4 here has overlapped this wave 1 here. I've seen it on the UK market as well. The UK market, oddly enough, well, I suppose there's a lot of connections in terms of finance and law. But the FTSE's done the same thing as well, but has presented still a nice move to the upside. So I'm kind of okay to accept the overlapping wave structure, which I'll show you on the ASX 200 in a moment, between wave 4 and wave 1 here. But my interest really lays in here, in that we know that if wave 2 is simple, then wave 4 is going to be complex. And normally I find the reason for it being complex is because, you know, the markets are emotional. You know, they're from mankind. So when we personally have a big event, then it takes us a while to get over it, neither negative or positive, you know. So this third wave is a big event, and the fourth wave is normally you know, the settling period for that. The wave 4 here too has also pulled back to its Fibonacci retracement level, you know, the 40%, 38.2%. So yeah, it's looking quite good. This as an A and a B and a C wave here. The A wave's fine, the B wave's fine. The C wave doesn't really count out nicely as a 5-wave structure. It does in terms of 1 here and 2 here and 3 here and 4 here and then down for 5 here, but we've also got a strong overlapping wave structure between these guys. So I'm also going to show you on a weekly chart if another way to count this, but would also take us down a little bit further as well. But I really also, you know, it may not be the case, but if we're going to lift off from here, then we need a strategy to be on this, and also the other banks as well. So yeah, looking at this so far here, this can actually be the low here, and we'll look at that on the daily chart. But I want to go to the weekly chart and show you another count for wave C here that should be in 5 waves, which counts a little bit better first. So from weekly chart, wave B here, wave 1 here, wave 2 here, then wave 1 and wave 2 here. And we that way that it handles the overlapping wave structure within this case. It still gives us an overlapping wave structure here, but not as much, and typically we can see that with wave 4. So it is possible, like I mentioned, have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 here for wave C of it ending here. But if it was going to play out further to the downside, we'd have to use this as wave 4 here, and then wave 5, then wave 3 here, then wave 4, then wave 5 here. I've gone over this once before as well, and this is quite suitable to other banks as well. But my thing here is that if we call this the low in here, I'll just go to the daily chart now. If we call this in here as wave 5 of C of 4 here, and we've looked at this moving up here as wave 1, and it does count quite nicely as wave 1 coming up here, as there's a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in here, like a 5-wave structure. And then this here counts quite nicely as, in fact, we'd probably have to put this blue wave 1 here as an orange wave 1 here, but it doesn't matter at this particular point. This here, I've always sort of considered it a corrective move down, and that's because of this here counts well as an A wave, a B wave and a C wave to here. So I've always looked at it as a corrective wave here as such as an A and a B and a C wave here in terms of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So I think we could have a low in here, but once again, I'm not that... it's done all the right things. So we need to see some more price action in here. We had a good move yesterday within this off this low here, and our thing was before too that I mentioned that if the 70 became the resistance here, then we would have a bearish bias in our wave count. So now what we need to see in a way is we need to see or stay with it for a little bit. But basically we want to see in this first little instance here, we want to see 5 waves up. And if we get the 5 waves up, then we know that we're going to get some pullback. But I wouldn't expect it to pull back too much. But I want to see that first 5 waves here. So, and then in that case, then we can look to move up there further. So I just really wanted to point that out. But I just want to go back to the monthly chart here now before we look at the ASX here on the monthly chart. So with CBA here, we've got a nice strong third wave here, and the fourth wave doesn't overlap wave 1 here. That's the main point I want to take away from here, because when we look at the ASX 200 here on the same count, first of all, when we haven't taken the top out here, and this wave 4 here is overlapping wave 1 here, and this is the same on some of the European market, well, the FTSE I mentioned before, but the FTSE's taken out its high here. So that tells me that because the FTSE's taken out its previous high here, but also at the same time overlapped wave 1 and 4 here, then there is hope for this market. The question is here, is that from wave 4 here going up to wave 5 here, it can count as already being completed here. So when I go to the weekly chart here to pick it up on this wave, blue wave 4 here, we've been counting it up like this here with wave 1 here, wave 2 here, and then all the way up for wave 3 and 4 here, and then moving up for 5 here. So we had counted 5 waves to sort of complete this here. So it is possible that we've got a top in here, but that wouldn't reflect what's occurring in the in the US indices, the European indices, and some of the other Asian indices as well, like India, for example. So there's something wrong with this wave count as such, and it's a little bit tricky to work out. It's not that we're going to miss much, because we can have tactics in place to capture things. So so starting firstly, it is possible to have this as wave 5 here and completed, and that means that we need to look at more of a bearish market coming down here, but we don't need to go there just yet. We could also look at this wave 4 here as wave 1 here and coming back for wave 2. There is another count within this little structure here as well. If I go to the, I don't think the daily chart's going to cut it for me, no. I mean, this has all been really quite messy in here. In fact, one of the counts that I've got here, or we've talked about wave 1 and wave 5 here, there is another count in here that this little move up through here, it doesn't count very nicely as 5 waves. It counts better as 3 waves. So I'm actually thinking that it's possible for this to be the A wave here, the B wave here, and then we're looking for 5 waves down here for wave C. So just on the 2-hour chart here, I've drawn this out here. So from the top here, an A wave here. See, because when I count up here, I've got 5 waves in this first little structure, then an A, B, C here, and then I've got another little 5 waves in here. So even though it's taken the top out here, that's fine. So it does count quite nicely as an A wave, a B wave, and then we're looking at this structure here, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then 5 waves down here to finish this. So we could just bounce straight up from here. So I won't have any answers for this particular structure just yet. What we will be doing with all of this along the way, now that I've sort of pointed out the larger counts, what we need to do is basically work through all of this on the intraday basis. So we know so far down here that we've got 1 and 2 and 3 here, and we were looking for a bounce off 61 here, and we're looking for a move back close to 62, because that would be the 38.2% retracement level from the top of wave 2 here down to wave 3 back to wave 4, so just below that. In fact, that high there would come in quite nicely. I just better double check that. Yeah, so that comes in there already at that there. So it's possible there's a top in play here, but the problem with that is that from this low here, we'll look at this in a moment, that I can count 5 waves up for wave A here. So wave A, wave B and wave C. So I just don't think that it's finished yet, that's all. The other point here too, we'll look at this in more detail in a moment, but you know, if we get 5 waves down here, then there's a possibility that that we can go straight up from there. There's also the possibility that we'll go up, back up here. If we get these 5 waves down here, go back up in 3 waves to the 50-60% retracement level. So that will roughly be around that 62 number there. I'll just double check that as well. So if I brought it down to 6,000 here, then the 50-60% retracement level is back up here. So this will give us that sort of area here. So we're either going to move to here, and then we're going to be moving down from that point, or we're going to be continuing to move up from that point. So we'll need something, we'll need a tactic to handle that. This move down through here at the moment, we could also call that corrective because it's in 3 waves. We know that the 38.2% retracement level is here. We know that large numbers are important, so 6.2. And 6.2 really, in terms of, because we use the trading levels and we use the Fibonacci as a price ratio, then the 62 becomes really important, because actually in geometry it's 61.8, isn't it? So that is the golden mean and the golden ratio number here. So that's going to be quite useful. That will play out a lot further as we move along here. But what I'm thinking is that if the 62 becomes the support up here, then we'll also need to look to go long up here as well. So we're not there yet, but if we get a really nice support, and support would be, you know, the arrival or even a bit higher, whatever, somewhere into there, the reaction, the first high above the level, an A and a B and a C correction, and then we'll start looking at these triggers here to take us higher at that point. But we need something like that here, okay? So that's not going to be just yet, it's not going to be today. Yeah, part of that will be there, but there'll be further processing. So that's how we'll handle it. If that number becomes support, we'll look for a pattern similar to that, and then we'll trade that long at that point. Otherwise, we'll just expect it to go an A wave, a little A, B, and C here for the B wave, and then up for the C wave here. And then we'll see what's going to occur there. And then if it's going to move down, we'll get our 5 waves down here. We can also look to short those as well. Yes, that's where we are. So on the hourly chart here, just to have a look at this here. So from this low right here, because we've got 5 waves that move down from this top here, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in here to finish this one off here. So this counts as wave 1 here and wave 2 here, nice wave 3, A, B, C for wave 4, and then 5 waves up for wave 5. So because we've got 5 waves there, after a correction, we'll get another 5 waves up. Okay, so in this instance here, I'm calling this wave A here because it does appear that we've got 5 waves down here. This little move up here so far has only got 3 waves in it, an A and a B and a C, so it can count as a B wave. If it makes a new little high here, then it's going to rule out this B wave here, because it will have 5 waves here, and then it will move up into this space here, and then we'll have to call, then we'll be looking at, let's get this here, then we'll have to put this B wave in here, and we'll put this C wave over here. But I think that there could be, I don't know, I'm not quite sure about this, but I mean, we'll see. If you see a move down here, it's only going to go to here. Okay, so don't get too bearish about it, and it'll be in 5 waves, and then we'll look at 5 waves moving up through here. I don't know how that's going to pan out. You would think because of the US markets being positive and being positive yesterday, we're going to be going straight up higher here today, but we could call this the squeeze on the opening rather after it opened. So yeah, not quite sure about this here, and I've been into the tick chart here. It doesn't help me out a lot. What you can see here is we can see from the A wave top here, we can see a strong move down here with a nice strong 3rd wave here and a 4th wave and a 5th wave. So this 1 and 2 will be in here somewhere. And this move up through here, it's quite clear that it's an ABC pattern, isn't it? If it drops down below this one here, then drops down past this one here, then we'll know it's got overlapping wave structures, and that it would, that B wave can come into play there, and then you can expect 5 waves down here like this here coming down here for here, and then you can start buying on 130 in this case here, but 6130, start buying on here, and then you can trade back up to the previous highs here, or maybe even the 62, but that's the 38.2% retracement level there at that point there, so need to consider that. Okay, let's move on. Sorry about that long-winded thing, but I just got to kind of explain what where I'm up to with my thoughts and so on. Okay, China. So 4-hour chart, we've been looking for from wave 3 here, an A and a B and a C wave here for this, and then we're looking for 5 waves down. So 1 and 2, and we went short here for wave 3, and wave 4's in here, and I think it's on that high here, and then we've got wave 1 and 2 and 3. I thought we had one more move to come down down here, but at the same time we need to protect some of our profit from here, so the stop can go at 10,914 or 917. I'll leave that up to you to have a look at. Yeah, but obviously too, if you've wanted to think that it's more bearish, then leave the stop out of the way here, because basically what normally happens is that a market will come down and then retest. So it's basically broken down, so it's going to try and go back and retest supply at that point. Especially on the futures market. So, but yeah, it might just drop one more time from here. Yeah, I mean, the other important number in here, of course, which I didn't point out before, is 650. Do it there, because that's the halfway mark between 800 and 500. So even though the 600 is important and 700 is important, the 650 is, I always find it more important. So let's see how we go there. And also with Hong Kong's much in the same boat as well. We've got an A, B and C here for wave 4, down for 1 and 2. Look to short here, 3, 4, bring the stop down to here. Look, the low may be in place, wave 5 low may be in here. I just don't know. This is also a 650 number here as well, 26,500, so that's important. If we get support back on this level here, then this is why this green one's here. We're going to be looking at going long from here too. So we could put that across here. But once again, we'd need to see a little setup here. We'd need to see this as the arrival coming, retesting back here, reacting first high above the level, then a little ABC correction, then up. So we won't put this green line in until we've got that first high above the level there. Okay. Otherwise, I mean, 25,000 is a medium level, and I kind of expect the market to be pulled down into that space. So Yeah, but I've gone over the third wave here, so that's quite sort of comfortable. The fourth wave in here is very complicated and looks like a little sort of triangle sort of pattern within this space here. So it's a little bit, as you can see from wave 2 top here, I've got 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2 and 3, ABC for 4 and down for 5 here. So that makes, oh, hang on a second, yeah, 1, 2, yeah, so that's, yeah, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 here for this one. So that'll give me the third wave here. So then when I take this 1 and 2 and 3 here, then I've got an A and a B and a C for 4 and down for 5. So that gives me the third wave. So then I'm looking all of this here being the fourth wave across to this point here, as a bit of a triangle pattern actually. So but still leaves me 1 and 2 and 3 here, but this wave 4 is coming up a little bit high here now, and it's also looking impulsive. So yeah, anyway, to be long we need 26,500 as a nice support here. Okay, so that's not there yet. Moving on to Japan. So with Japan here, our count has been a little bit wobbly, a bit like this market itself, but I've been looking at wave 4 being in place here, and then wave 1 here, ABC for wave 2, then wave 1, ABC for wave 2, wave 1, and then we've actually got 3 waves back here to our 61.8% retracement level, well, a bit lower than that. So we may be on the verge here of you know, moving up here in this case. So let's go in and have a look at that. So I mean, there is, just before we go, there is, you know, really until we make a new high here, we're still subject to further downside on all of this. But let's just go in and let's go to the hourly chart and pick up that. So this is where we were last time on this one. So with wave 1 here, an A wave, a B wave. This is all a bit complicated, but basically 5 waves down for C of 2 here. So I think when I spoke last time, this is why these little guys up here, is that we know that from the top here to the low here, that the 50-60% retracement level is here. So we're just going to put that in here. So in a nutshell, I would expect that market to, over the next session or two, to stall here. It'll stall here because of the 50-60% retracement level. It'll stall here because of the 800, we call a profit-taking number. And we can also see that the supply is here. So if we looked at volume within all of this, then we know that this is really where the selling started. So this would be squeezing people out here on their stops. So this is an important space here. So if we see later on that this space here, because at the moment it's facing resistance, isn't it? If we see later on that it's sitting as support, then we'll know to go long from that point. Also with this too, we can look at the wave count with this, and currently we could call this up here as the first wave up as wave A here and wave B here, and then 5 waves up for wave C. So if I can just borrow some of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll take it up to the 800 there, just to be, give it a bit of breathing space. But so it can be an A and a B and a C wave here and finish here. Okay, so that's what we've got to be careful of. But at the same time, we can also look at this being wave 1 here, wave 2 here, and looking at this as wave 3 here, then wave 4 coming back to the wave 4 of 1 lesser degree here, and then wave 5 moving up here. So if we get this here, wave 4 here pulling back into this space, and wave 5 here, after wave 5 we can look at this here, 5 waves up, we can look at this here, at the 50-60% retracement level here. So in this case here, we'd have 5 waves up, and then we would have 3 waves back again in here, and then would move up. In fact, it probably wouldn't go all this way back here. It would probably just come back to group 2 here, the 65, 72 and 80 here, and also to where these wave 4s play out, so in this space here. So you've got an opportunity to buy here and keep the stop under here. So the stop would need to go under there, and we could buy on this wave 4 low coming back here. And you could even get out here, obviously you can get out here if you want, and so on, but it depends what you wanted to do at that point. I think that this is the box we want, really. So let's just, let's turn that green, shall we? Let's just leave it at that for the time being. Anyway, that's something to think about. Just one more little thing here. This would actually have to be wave 1 here and wave 2 over here. So I'd have to change the degree of structure of these, but the count would stay the same. And also India. So India. So this is the bigger picture here. This is weekly chart. So the 2016 low here, where the US banks started to pick up, and BHP and so on. So wave 1 and 2 here, wave 3 here, wave 4 here. So this is where we are here. So we've got wave 1 and 2 in play, and we're considering this wave 3 in play here, and this wave 4 in play here. I think that even though I've got it like this here, as I've mentioned before, I think that we could even be 1 degree lower in this wave 3 and 4 here. I won't be able to work it out I would be able to work it out. It's just that it'll take me too much time, and I'm a bit poor on that, so I'll have to wait for later as I get more price action to make it clear. So just on the daily chart there, so from this wave 4 here now, we've got wave 1 and 2 here, and then we're looking at this being 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And like I said, we've got wave 3 here, but I think that I could be wrong with this wave 3. I think that we've actually got this top here is actually this blue wave 3 here. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. We expected a top to come in play, and then we expect the wave 4 to pull back to where it has done now. Okay. Also, to this pattern across here, if I can just borrow this green segment here, copy that or whatever, then this becomes our signal to the upside here. This is what I call a classic trading levels pattern. So it's basically the arrival, the reaction, which is normally in 3 waves, and then we get 5 waves for the first high above the level. So the arrival, the reaction, the first high above the level, and then we get our corrective pattern occurring here, and then we can look to go long here. So your indicators will probably be saying we'll be in buying positions now. Let's just have a look. Always like stochastics, so daily stochastics is good, and something a little bit sharper. CCI is always pretty good. So yeah, that's just coming into the buying thing here now as well. So look, I know that I don't use indicators, and it's not like I don't like them. It's just that I kind of see how they work, so I can see it in the price action, so it doesn't really matter too much. So let's just dive in here onto the 4-hour chart. So this has fallen away quite nicely. So yeah, so we're looking for a move back up into this box here. So definitely achieved that. And we can bring this stop down here move stop. I would have put it there last time, but we've kept it out of the way. We've done all the right things. You may have taken profit here and all that sort of stuff. So I think I'll just check that in a moment here. And I'll just put, it's always nice to have a trend line. Just sort of, somehow it just sort of makes you think clearly. Don't need any of this. Excuse me, I just paused the video and labelled these guys here, and also checked this here too, from this top here down to this low here. I thought it might be wave 1 to here, 2 here and 3 here, but I think we've actually got wave 1 and 2 in here, and then 3 and 4 and 5. So I think that we're actually finished here. We're on our 38.2% retracement level here. So I'm thinking that it's probably a good time to take profit. So I'll just put this here. It should just be take profit here, and you can make a decision on that yourself. And I was thinking that decision could come in. Let's also grab this, copy this green one here. I'm thinking 11,353. If you get support on top of that, we can go long there. Okay, so that's 353. So yeah. You could also go long now as well. That's not such a bad idea as well, right on the turn, but I don't really have enough evidence for that turn up here. So if you were going to go long right now, then the stop would need to be here. So in this case here, that's, we'll just copy that. We'll just put that there. If you're going to go long, then that's where you go long from. The other point that I wanted to make here is that, see, from here, I'm thinking that we've actually got wave 1 and 2 in here, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here for the third wave, fourth wave here, and then the fifth wave dropping here. So I think that we can be in. The other point that I want to make too is just going back to the 4-hour chart, is that I know that, copy text, so I know that wave 4s can be complicated, so we also need to be mindful that this first leg down here could be just the A wave here, and then we could get a B wave. Copy this here, that's 61.8% there, so that would be the B wave here. So we may end up getting a more complicated wave 4 here. But the other point too is that we should look at going in and buying, because we know this is a bullish market. We know that this is a corrective pullback. We know that it's pulled back to the 38.2% retracement level. So we should be able to build in, but we just need to do it small as we gather the evidence, because at the end of the day, what we'd be looking for would be a little 5 waves up here, and then a pullback coming into play, and then moving up here again. So having 5 waves here would help with the evidence of this. So just going back to the hourly chart here. So yeah, I mean, if you're one of these traders that like the turns, well then this is the space for you, and keep that stop out of the way there. I'm just putting it under here, but you might need to drop that down a little bit. You don't really want to get out of this until this low's breach. So over here, this, if I can just copy this here on the 350 here, 350 here, and then obviously there's going to be some sort of correction across here. Okay, so if I put it on 53 there somewhere, 53, then you want support on top of that. Okay, so what you can expect here is the arrival, the reaction, the first high above the level, and then a little corrective pattern, and then a push up. So that will be across the 350. If you get support on top of a nice tested support on top of 353, because the 53, 50 is the midpoint, and the 3 is the top of group 1 there, so that's why you would look to take that at that point. But let's see how we go with here. So the real trade is here, but if you're looking to go in further, then here, where you have to keep the stop wherever it's 61.8% away. So wherever you get in, take that, measure the current high here, wherever you get in, and then keep the stop under the 61.8%. But when you're looking at the 61.8%, if it's like that there, the 11,280, we don't put it at the 80. You don't put stops on, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You don't do that. You need to go under that. So under the 80, you don't want to put it at the 9 because that might just get stabbed out. And then the next strongest number under that is the 8. So 78. That's where all the orders will be, the supporting orders at 78. So you'll need to, and you don't want to put it at one under that, which would be 77. So 76 would be the first one. So between 1 and 10, you've got 5. So you always decide if you're going to be above 5 or below 5. So if you're going to be below 5, you don't, because 5 is the second strongest number, you don't want to put it at 4. And 3 is always a good space for a bounce. So it would have to be at 2. So 6 and 2 for long trade stops will give you better results at the end of the day. All right, this is a long video. Sorry to waffle on so much. Thanks for tuning in as always, much appreciated.